Welcome back to Brilliant Fools. My name is Adam Green, and on this Technical Tuesday, we're going to do a little bit of a deep dive into this S style of human behavior. The S style being the more steady, the more stable, more sensitive to what's going on, sensitive to body language, emotion, can read the room a lot better than maybe some others are. The S style tends to be a little more reserved behavior, but also tends to be people-oriented behavior. What you're going to see there, that means, whereas the I style goes out and meets everybody you can, and sometimes you need to do that depending on the environment that you're in, the S style is going to have a few conversations. Like if you look at it in a networking meeting, an S style will have a few conversations but go very deep into those conversations. If you're living heavily in this S style, then you will probably have fewer relationships, but they'll be very deep relationships, very strong relationships. If you're immature and living heavily in this S style, then what can happen there is you can actually have the opposite effect. You can start not having deep relationships because you're afraid of offending people. And when you're afraid of offending people, if that takes root, if that takes hold, it can almost be paralyzing. You're afraid to do anything at all because it might offend somebody somewhere. A true, strong, and mature S style is steady, is consistent, is loyal for sure, but also stands on what's right, is steady on what's right, is stable on what is correct and the good thing to do, good things to do. For this reason, the S style also seems to be one of the most desired traits, one of the most desired behaviors in individuals when it comes to business leaders hiring for certain positions. Loyalty is very important, right? You want to know somebody's going to stay with you for a while. You want to know they're not going to jump in and jump out, jump in and jump ship. You want to make sure they're going to be there with you for the long haul. That can be a bit hypocritical sometimes, because oftentimes in business we can't guarantee that for the person. We want them to be there for the long haul for sure, but can I guarantee that I'm going to be there for them for the long haul? Can I guarantee that I'm going to be around? Can I tell them that? So it's important to balance that, to temper the expectations there for the long haul, and understand there's a part for me to do as well. If I really want somebody there, if I really want somebody to be loyal, then my expectation should be to be loyal to them as long as I can be. At some point, if they're not doing what's right, even if they're likable and great people, yeah, it may be time to let them go. However, this is a very desired trait, and I think it's a good trait, because what tends to happen is you start having these people who can operate very well in that S style of behavior. When they're on your team, they can really bring a team together. They can be that glue, that cohesion for your team. Very concerned about making sure people are doing things well, very team oriented. And that's a truly desired trait for sure. Be careful, because especially if you're not as mature in that S style, you can compromise on the truth in order to keep the peace. That's part of that whole almost being paralyzed as far as knowing what to do and where to go, because I'm afraid that I'm offending people. If I'm not very mature in what I know, not very steady and solid on what I believe, then I can jump around. I can be like the Bible calls it, like a double-minded man, tossed around to and fro by the waves. No matter where the waves are going, that's where you're going to go, because your sail's not up, you're not pointed, the rudder's not pointing you in the direction. So it's important to note for someone who is operating that way, if you see someone who's operating in an S style of behavior that is causing some compromising on the truth in order to keep peace, that is causing some paralysis in order not to offend, make sure they understand that this only will cause a greater offense later. It'll cause bigger issues later. You'll rock the boat even more later. If you take care of it now, it's a course correction immediately and you're good to go. You can be steadier. You can be more stable as you move forward. But if you don't, you're just going to rock that stability and just continue. And I've seen this not just in the business world, but in people's personal lives, where that stability that they're longing for, that they're trying for, they end up sabotaging that for themselves in the long haul because they're not willing to do those little moments of hard times or just kind of be themselves so that they can have those true deep relationships with the people that they're desiring to have those for. Again, I'm going to make this point, and this is a much shorter one today. I'm starting to wrap up now, but I want to make this point. I believe wholeheartedly that your behavior does not define you. It can seem kind of weird because that's the way that we tend to define people, by the way they are behaving. But especially as a believer, we are defined by who we are in Christ, period. So operating in this behavior or not operating in this behavior doesn't define you. This is not a personality trait that just is what it is and it can't be changed. It'll develop and mature more and more as we are deeper in Christ and as we abide with him more and more. So, and I've said it before, but we often tend to evaluate others or define others based on their behavior and define ourselves based on our intentions. But I would also say I don't think our intentions define us either. It truly is who we are in Christ and who he says we are. Made in his image, the righteousness of God, which means we are as we ought to be in him, and then we ought to live in that. And the way that we ought to live in that are all these good qualities of that S style of behavior. Being consistent, being loyal, being team-oriented, associating with the lowly and not being haughty and thinking of ourselves as better than others, stable, steady, sensitive to what's going on around us. But the good news is we don't have to perform this out in order to be in the S style of behavior. We just need to abide with Christ, and he'll bring that out in us in all the best ways. I hope this has been helpful. I've said it before, but if you have any further questions, let me know. Reach out to me. There's links to get in touch with me. You could, if you need bookkeeping for some reason. I do bookkeeping. It's bookkeeping that goes beyond the basics, and it incorporates this kind of counsel into it. But understanding how to marry that super practical side of the bookkeeping with things like this that are more heady, behavior-oriented, how those things are moving around. Because you'd be surprised. You'd be surprised what you can see when you look at the books and you can see where these behaviors have started coming out and where the money's flowing. But if you want to get in touch with me for any reason, then shoot a comment, send me a direct message, schedule a call. Any of that is good. And again, hope it's been helpful. Until next time, thanks.